Walter Elias Disney was born in Chicago, Illinois on December 5, 1901. He developed a love of drawing, and by 18 he became a draftsman at a Kansas City art studio.
His very first job in the art world was at a small company where he met Ub Iwerks, who turned out to be a fantastic animator later in his life. But the two became friends, and shortly after they decided to form a company together.
Working with Iwerks and his brother Roy, Disney opened a Hollywood studio in 1923. 5 years later, the studio made Steamboat Willie, starring an animated mouse who would become the cornerstone of their company.
Cartoon would always come off the drawing board and run around in a real room and work with a real person. I said, well, maybe I'll pull a reversal on that. I'll put the humans in with the cartoon. I found a little girl that had been posing for some of the commercial things. But I still couldn't get anywhere with it, and the company began to collapse. There was no money coming in, so there's nothing left but to go into bankruptcy. I'd failed. But I learned a lot out of that. And I think it's important to have a good, hard failure when you're young, you know?
In the world's film capital is the studio that stands as a monument to the great genius of Walt Disney, master of a new form of popular art that has captivated millions of moviegoers. With the antics of his entrancing animated cartoon characters, he has built an enterprise that employs 700 skilled and highly specialized artistic workers.
I was a newcomer, and I said, "Good morning, Mr. Disney." Stopped right away, and he said, "Call me Walt." Oh, boy, that is great. Oh, man, what a boss, huh? Call me Walt.
We worked from 7 in the morning until 10 at night. And I was glad to do it because I believed in what we were doing, and I believed in Walt.
Everybody loved the studio. Everybody joyfully worked overtime, put in all the hours needed without any pay. Everybody liked each other and liked Walt.
You know, I was stumped one day when a little boy asked, "Do you draw Mickey Mouse?" And I had to admit I do not draw anymore. Well, then you think of all the jokes and ideas. No, I said, I don't do that. Finally, he looked at me and said, "Mr. Disney, just what do you do?" Well, I said, sometimes I think of myself as a little bee. I go from one area of the studio to another and gather pollen and sort of stimulate everybody. I guess that's the job I do.
When the Disney studio opened in early 1940, it was a showplace. The animation building was built in a very unique way. Every office had outdoor light coming into it. Now, this is something that Walt was really insistent upon. He wanted natural light coming in for his artists. He had a reputation of staying around at night and going around and snooping in his artists' rooms to see what they were working on. And sometimes they'd come in the morning, and pinned to their bulletin board would be a crumpled up piece of paper that had been in the wastebasket with Walt's note written on it. "Why are you throwing away all your best ideas?"
Disney's dream of a children's amusement park came to life on July 17, 1955, with the televised opening of Disneyland, the most well-known theme park in the world.
The whole park fascination started back when he was in Kansas City. A certain amusement park there, he and his little sister would stand outside with not the money to go in. And later, Rudolph Ising, one of his original animators from Kansas City, is quoted as saying, Walt and I went to the park one day, and Walt said, "I'm going to have a park like this someday, but mine's going to be clean."
Walt did not want to spoil his daughters, but on occasion he did have a special surprise for them.
The most exciting Christmas for us was the Playhouse Christmas. He was directing us, and he said, now go over to the mailbox. Now go to the gate, open the gate. Now go inside. Now open the door, open the top of the door, and look out. Lean out farther. Diane, lean out farther. And I fell on my face. And I'm relieved to see he dropped the camera immediately, because all I remember is when I came up crying with my bloody lip, he was still filming me.
Walt's home was his sanctuary, but his family knew they had to share Walt with the studio. The studio had lost its way. Roy wanted to be financially conservative. Walt yearned for new adventures. Finally, the brothers agreed to diversify and turned to live-action films.
Bambi. By 1950, Disney released its first live-action film and TV special.
Saturday was always Daddy's Day with the two daughters. So we'd start out and try to go someplace.
And then we go to Griffith Park, and there was a beautiful carousel there. It's still there.
As I'd sit there while they rode the merry-go-round, did all these things, sit on a bench, eating peanuts, I felt that there should be something built, some kind of an amusement enterprise built where that the parents and the children could have fun together.
At the time that Walt was thinking about building a park, most amusement parks were not someplace that you'd want to let your kids go on their own. You pretty much, they were kind of dirty, they were kind of seedy.
Walt sent artists to classes at the Chouinard Art Institute.
The first thing I did when I got a little money to experiment, I put all my artists back in school. The art schools that existed then didn't quite have enough for what we needed, so we set up our own art school. Now we were dealing in motion, movement, and the flow of movement, the flow of things, action, reaction, all of that.
On December 16, 1966, Walt Disney died of acute circulatory collapse brought on by lung cancer. Today, the multi-billion-dollar Disney empire includes multiple TV networks, motion picture studios, vacation resorts, theme parks, and record labels.
It's remarkable to see how many children and adults continue to enjoy and love his works.
Well, I tell you, I never cried when my dad died. See, I did when Walt died, and I'm darn near close to it right now.
My dad was a person with a lot of drive, huge curiosity, great love of life and people, and everything that makes you human also was what made him human.
And every kid on the planet who's privileged enough to see a movie, a Disney movie, obviously is a legend that will never ever die.